alien version of it, and we did a 3D morph to the alien face.
This scene coming up is a scene that kind of came late in the editing process, in the sense that this is the Jedi Temple, and we are actually using plates that were shot for Episode 1. So everything that you see over here in terms of the background is shot for Episode 1, and then we had to remove some characters and put new characters in. Sam had to be shot, obviously for this scene, and then Anakin and Obi were shot on blue screen and then recomped over backgrounds that we already had. So in a sense, we are basically marrying film and HD and also computer graphics.
This scene is actually added later after I had my first cut. It's one of those scenes that you don't like to write, but ultimately you have to. It's the scene that kind of explains what's going on and who's going to go where. It's kind of a logistics scene.
From an editorial standpoint, the scene between Anakin and Palpatine came about a year or so into the editing. This was not a scene that was part of the original scenario. But as things developed with the story, it became evident that it would help a great deal to establish a direct connection between Palpatine and Anakin, and that there was a relationship there that was private and not perhaps even known to the other Jedis or anyone else.
I had all these hints that Palpatine had been helping Anakin, but I needed an explicit scene that actually spelled it out, and where you could see some of Anakin's dialogue later on has come from Palpatine.
This sequence was added late in the production of the film. We needed a moment when Mace and Obi-Wan and Yoda were talking about Anakin. We realized right away that there's no way that Yoda's going to be able to keep up to them. Yoda, being small and being old, can only walk so fast, and it was really going to restrict the two actors to full-size men in terms of how they were moving down that hallway. So George came up with the idea of putting them in this little hovering chair.
It's very difficult to put a tall person and a short person together in the same shot. The camera angles either become very high or very low and are not really particularly flattering or dramatically interesting.
Shots are just to remind you really where you are. You saw in that last shot that you actually see the window being replaced from the previous night when Obi-Wan jumps out of the window. It crashes and breaks.
This is the plot thickens with Jar Jar. Since Padme has to leave, she gives her second in command, the representative of Naboo, Jar Jar Binks, orders to watch after things and represent Naboo in the Senate, which ultimately leads to a more difficult situation. It's the first real scene between Anakin and Padme. We get to see that Anakin is frustrated with Obi-Wan, and you get to see him sort of be a young bratty kid, but then at the same time have an underlying strength and an underlying flirtation and a little bit of danger in him that is just beneath the surface. He's both very shy and awkward, and then at the same time kind of bold and strong and angry. And I'm trying to play those two qualities in Anakin at this point, just really establish the complexities of his character, and wanting and having a lot of love for Obi-Wan, but at the same time being extremely frustrated with being held back and impatient with his progress as a Jedi. I also wanted to establish that Padme was still kind of the older of the two, and that she was a little bit more in charge than Anakin. Even though Anakin has grown up, she's still the boss.
Use this dock that the ship's landing in, but the ship is computer graphics.
Interior of the bus is full scale.
But we only had the back part of it, so there's two shots coming up here where we see the front of the bus, and we built a extension for it.
A bit of a transitional scene to establish that Padme's handmaiden is going to impersonate her while she's gone, and they're going to hope that nobody realizes it. Mostly this scene is, again, one of those functional scenes where we have to split the parties up. Everybody has their little assignment and we have to know where everybody's going.
Sequence that we shot on a stationary set. We had just built the interior of the transport carrier. It's a very pivotal moment in the film. You can see in Anakin the anxiety that he has about going out and setting out on his first real assignment.
This are mostly functional in nature, and you hope that you can make a few jokes or liven things up to keep it entertaining as you get through them. You have the foreboding of which of the two younger characters are going to cause the most trouble as far as the Jedi and the security people are concerned. And somewhere, and to have him get this information from this character who had been sort of all around the galaxy. So I wanted to do a little homage to American Graffiti and have it be in a diner.
So here he is, the introduction to Dexter. He's a short order cook. These guys are clearly old friends. In fact, we know that, and it's not until this next shot when he comes out of the kitchen that we realize he's got 4 arms. He's got a wonderful character in his walk, which we took right from the voice actor. And then this shot, he's actually hugging Obi-Wan. So Obi-Wan is digital from the neck down. And this is have their conversation. Moments like this are wonderful for animators because we're able to share this screen with Ewan McGregor, with Obi-Wan, and to have this nice rapport between these two characters, and yet one of them isn't even there. Ronald Falk was the voice actor for this character. He brought a character in his voice and in his rehearsal, because he would shoot him in this booth. This whole set was actually there in Sydney. And Ronald would sit and rehearse this with Ewan, and I would watch and pick up on all the little nuances, all the way he shook his shoulders when he laughed, or the way he slapped his hand on the table, or the way he turned and followed Obi-Wan's hand in this particular shot. And we blended that in and made that part of Dexter's repertoire. There was a wonderful chemistry between them. You can see that Ewan is genuinely enjoying himself here. You know, these are old friends in the story, but he was clearly keying off of what this other actor was bringing to the performance. And because of that chemistry, I was really able to make Dexter come to life. Now, Ronald, thank God, didn't have a huge bullfrog cheek like this, but that was something that was part of the design that I really wanted to bring to this character. Steve Rollins was our lead animator on this section and did a fabulous job setting the tone of how these airbag would fill and deflate as the character talked.
On how good your manners are.
Sequence, you can see a bunch of very familiar people there, right here, the bust. Like, for instance, the 4th bust is George. Behind George is Rob Coleman.
Famous Jedi, right?
Yeah, of course.
Jedi
yes.
Masters.
There is Rob Coleman.
Oh my gosh. That's
There's
the first time I ever knew that was in there.
Right in front of Rob Coleman is George. I don't think George knew about this.
Did you put me in there?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
There's also John Knoll, and there is me, and there is Brian Gernan, who is our mall supervisor.
And the Jedi Order has been hiding this whole system from the Jedi archives. It does come out eventually in the next movie, exactly what's behind all this. But I wanted to have it there in this movie, but not so strongly that you asked a lot of questions about who is the one that erased the tapes and who started the army and how all that works, because it's something that unfortunately doesn't get revealed until the 3rd film. Obi-Wan's mystery and searching for the killer with Anakin and Padme, which is a rather passive thing, gave me a chance to tell this love story, which is what I call love story light. I only had a few scenes available to me to kind of establish their feelings for one another and go from the kind of formality of the first scene they had together in the apartment to the more familiar scenes that are coming up later. This is kind of a transitional scene where Padme first gets the idea that Anakin's intentions really are more serious than she thought, because when he reveals that he has been dreaming about her a lot and thinking about her a lot over the last 10 years in slightly romantic ways, it causes them both a bit of embarrassment.
Which is the training veranda, walking through a miniature set, matte painting extension. It's very difficult to do, much more difficult than you'd expect. On the day when we were shooting the plates, we had 14 children to shoot, and it's very difficult to get 14 sort of 4 and 5 year old children to sit still for even a moment or two, let alone to shoot a scene of this length. So the first few shots are very much patched together from multiple takes, so we could get the performances all to be reasonable. So it's a patchwork from what we shot in Sydney. Then there's a number of computer-generated kids that were added after the aliens, just to get the performances to all be sort of consistent throughout.
It ought to be.
We shot a live-action body, and then we just did head and hand replacement for those. So my son Alex is all of the alien Jedi
From the neck down.
from the neck down. And my character on the left, closest to Yoda.
How can this be?
That Yoda trains the younger Jedi, and when he finishes training them, then they go on to be mentored by a specific Jedi as a Padawan learner. Yoda didn't really get a chance to train Anakin in this way because he was too old. I wanted to be very careful not to have Yoda sort of speaking in bumper sticker speak, which is just these little short quips of wisdom. In the first film, in Empire Strikes Back, he, is funny. He's a very playful, mischievous little character. Even when he's serious, he has this kind of wry sense of humor.